Kruve Sifter came on the market in 2015 as a revolutionary product to help coffee brewers all around the world sift their coffee at a precise size, down to the microgram, so that all of the grinds are exactly the same size wherever you're brewing. Same size grind equals even extractions, eliminates bitterness and sourness, and enhances the sweetness. But is this the product that every home brewer should be after? G'day guys, Ryder here, your Chief Espresso Officer. So I've been looking at the Kruve. This is a sifter for your coffee, and I've been looking at this for quite a while now. I had never actually owned one until recently, so when I got my hands on one finally, I wanted to review it and play around with it. And so I spent the good part of an entire day yesterday going through all of the different variations and variables to get a good result out of the Kruve. And these are my thoughts. I'll show you what I did yesterday so that you can get an understanding of how much effort I went into trying all the different styles. Let's have a look at what we did. So for years after this first came out, I wanted to get my hands on one because I just love the idea and the design of it, and I really wanted to know whether it could take any household grinder and turn it into a much more expensive grinder by sifting out all of the too large and too finer grinds. We used the Koenig EK43 as the standard. That used to be an old spice grinder, and it fell accidentally into the coffee world when people discovered it made really consistent grind. But do you need to spend $5,000 on a grinder at home just to get the same consistency? Well, Kruve says, no, you don't. You can turn any household grinder into the same level of consistent grinder that a Koenig EK43 is, just by sifting out all of the smaller and larger grinds. So to give you a brief history of the company Kruve, they started this product in 2015. Three founders, there's Adam and Mark Vecchiarelli. So they took Krupa, K-R-U, and Vecchiarelli and put the V-E on the end to get Kruve. And the Kruve Sifter won Best New Product from the Sprudgie Awards in 2017. Now, when I got my hands on one just a little while ago, I was actually really surprised at how large the sifter is. In my personal opinion, I don't feel like it needs to be this large. I feel like a smaller hand-sized one might have been better. However, they've gone with this, and it does hold a lot of grind, so it's good to get your dosage exactly right, because obviously you're gonna lose a little bit of the dose if you just put in 11 grams of coffee in there, and after you've sifted out all the larger and finer grinds, you're gonna be left with less than 11 grams. You're gonna have to keep topping it up. So I understand perhaps why they went with the larger one. It is still a beautifully designed product with a timber lid that easily comes apart, and inside you see there's 3 chambers. There's the smallest one, which captures all of the finest grinds, the middle one, which is where you want to get your perfect grind, and then the top section is to catch all of the boulders. The interesting thing is it only came with 5 screens in the basic box set. So this is an example of one of the screens, and you can see there all the same size holes all over there. They're precisely made and they're precisely the same distance apart. Now, depending on what you're wanting to brew, whether it be plunger, filter, espresso, Turkish, you get different size filters, and you can see the difference there. Hopefully you can see how different they are there. And they say at the top how many microns they are. So this is a 500 micron, and this one here is an 800 micron. And they go all the way up to 1600 microns and all the way down to 200 microns. But here's the catch. You have to buy the entire lot of them if you want to be able to brew all the different types of coffees. And I wanted to brew espresso mainly because I just wanted to see how much better it might come through on the Espresso with perfectly sized grind. So I had to buy an extended box that allowed me to get down to the 350 microns. If you're just wanting to do pour over basically with the normal standard range screens that come with each set, you can just get away with the SCA standard cupping area. You can also do some pour over. It doesn't give you the full range to allow you to do Turkish, espresso, cold brew, even some of the AeroPress ones fall a little bit outside of the range of the box set. So you really have to know up front which screens you want by using their brew recipe guide, which is really helpful, and then make a purchase of either buying all 15 screens or just buying 5 or buying 10, whatever suits you and the methods that you're using. Kruve costs about $200 Australian. I think it's $100 US for the base product. That's just the 5 screens. Obviously, if you want to get more precise, you have to spend more, up to about $200 US anyway. It's a very expensive product. Whether it fits into your budget and whether how much weight you apply to the importance of this in your workflow, that's for you to decide. However, it's really easily available all over the world, wherever you are. Everyone can access these Kruves and improve your grinder. I want to test out a couple of different things here. One, on a really cheap grinder, can it improve the grind? And then use the Malkönig EK43. So first off, we're going to do a filter, a pour over. And what we're going to use is some Chef beans, which are omni roasted. So these are a little bit lighter than normal espresso ones, just because it brings out some of those nuances, those lighter flavors, much more subtle flavors that don't get picked up in espresso, but are really highlighted in a pour over. Okay, so according to the Kruve brewing recipe guide, we want to have about 1100 microns as the boulder capture. So this is going to catch all of our larger size granules of coffee. And then in the base one, we want to filter out anything below 700 microns. And whatever's left in here should be perfect for our pour over. So to do this properly, I'm going to have to put in more than 11 grams, which is what I normally use for my pour overs. I'm going to go a little bit high. I don't know how inconsistent these grinders are, so I'm going to have to make them, I'm going to just say 15 grams, and then I'm going to have to weigh it out afterwards and get my perfect 11 grams. Okay, let's first try it in a lovely Kmart grinder that cost us 50 bucks or something from Kmart. Terrible grinder. Doesn't even go fine enough to work on this espresso machine, but maybe it's enough to make a decent pour over. So you can see already how much popcorning was going on there with the beans popping up all over the place. It's not a very consistent grinder, but that's all right, because that's why we have the sieve. There's obviously lots of different size grinds in there, and heaps that ended up on here. So tons of fines, and maybe none will be picked up in the middle. So first, shake it for about 60 seconds. Different people say shake it like a paint tin shaker, or shake it from left to right to get those things moving around. One thing I did find with the Kruve Sifter is that when you open it up, you tend to find a lot of it's gone off to the sides, and around the edges there's no holes there, so if they're sitting in there, you have to just sort of like push them back into the middle, which is a little bit annoying. Anyway, I think that we might have that. Let's see. Not sure how much we got. You can see when we open up the Kruve, actually not too many boulders up there. And this is what I mean about the fines. See, the fines get stuck to the top. Doesn't really matter because we weren't looking for these fine parts, but if there were any that were the right size microns, we missed out on them because they stuck to the top chamber. Here's the 700 micron chamber. I can see straight away that's going to be less than 11. Look how much the fines there were. So this was from a really crappy grinder. So most of it ended up too fine. Some of them ended up about right. We'll see what this weight is, and then we'll adjust the grinder, or we'll continue grinding some more. Now there's stuff already coming through still. Might just give it a quick little extra sieve just to see if I can clean up any of those last remaining grinds. There's just so much that went through. It's going to be very low volume. And this is the other thing that I just find is a little bit annoying. It's only a small gripe, but like I have to do that to get it into a particular receptacle. I got 2 grams. That's ridiculous. Now that's obviously the grinder's fault, not the Kruve's fault. So we're going to have to do that more, and probably do that same thing over 50 million times. So let's get started. So one thing that's really lovely to look at is all of those even grinds. They definitely look beautiful when they're all even like that. So that's something that's super cool. So let's see if we got enough to make. Oh, yes. All right, I'll go for 11.5. So we got enough, but you can see how much waste there was. So hopefully I can use that in something else, maybe like espresso. I think it might be too fine for an espresso, but maybe. Obviously I had a little bit more there. At the end of the day, there wasn't too much of the boulders and the chaff. There's still some coming through, so maybe I could have got a bit more out of there. But so clearly, it's not really the cleanest method. It's definitely not the most time-efficient method. Consistency, definitely, you can tell how good those grinds look compared to when we first got them and they were just all different sizes. Now we're going to brew this and see how it tastes. I have to use the back of my spoon to agitate it. I mean, the consistency of the grinds looks beautiful. I have to say, that looks really amazing. It looks very sweet. No sediment at all. Normally there's a tiny bit of sediment just in the bottom. There's none. Now that's brilliant. There's a lot of clarity. That is really interesting how smooth it is. Yeah, that tastes really good. I probably need to, I think I've over extracted it just a fraction. That would be just my mistake, not the Kruve. But like just no sediment, no muddiness at all, very clean. Let's give the others a try, see what they think. Conclusion, yeah, tasted fine. Really did help improve the crappiest grinder I could find, so that's a big bonus. It definitely makes sense. I don't like the waste. If you've got a way to use the waste, like maybe you can collect all of these and make a plunger with that, or cold brew, and let's try making this into an espresso now, see if we can get that working. But other than that, I don't love the waste or the amount of time that you use to do it. But let's test this first, try and make an espresso with the fines, and we'll get on to the Malkönig, see if there's any improvements there. Okay, now obviously this is everything under 700 microns. So it's gonna be some that are way too fine and some that are too coarse. You want to be around the 200 micron range for espresso. So I feel like this is probably not going to come out well, but if it does, then it gives a secondary use to the Kruve when you're making your pour overs. You can also save anything with the espresso grinds as well. I mean, that isn't bad. I'm surprised. That's actually quite a nice flow. We're at full bars, so a 10 bar there. 21 seconds. Yeah, we're doing all right. And it's coming down to the end. So a little bit of a short time frame, 25 seconds plus, that's 4 seconds pre-infusion. So I would have hoped to get to the 30. Still, lovely crema. That could pass. I'll taste it and see if it does pass. Yeah, I mean, it tastes very much like the Jäger Chef that I know, but a little bit murky in terms of the clarity is not there because obviously there's probably a lot more fines in here. But that's acceptable. And so if that is what I can get from everything below 700 microns when I'm using the Kruve, out of, remember, we're using the crappiest Kmart grinder that we could find. We aren't using a Niche Zero. We aren't using a Malkönig EK43. We are just cheap as cheap. And that quality is acceptable. Now, let's try the Malkönig. 11.5 grams again. I know we're gonna have to grind some more, but it's actually mainly to see what the grind consistency is, because obviously we only got 2 grams, or 1.8 grams out of the crappy grinder. You know, that's like what, 20%? So this EK43 should be a little bit better. Mississippi. They say do this for 60 seconds. I feel like I had to do it for much longer. And it really does work your forearms. My brain's rattling around. Let's have a look. Okay, quite a few boulders. A good amount there. Quite a bit of fines in there. Surprisingly, actually. Oh, so much better. 6.5. Now, obviously, I probably can grind a bit finer because there were quite a bit of grinds in the top, but I was actually more surprised about how many grinds there were in the fines basket. But let's try this again. So we're up to 6.6. Oh, heaps better. I ground it a bit finer and that made it a lot less boulders. That's good. Still a lot. Okay, well we got there. Now we can do that. See if it makes any difference. So this is from the EK43, same process through the Kruve, and now we're going to see, well, obviously a lot less retention in terms of wrong size grinds. So we probably got about half as opposed to 80%. It almost tastes a little bit flatter. So there was a distinct over-extraction sort of flavor that I had there. It might have come from just the way that I made it, and I refined that. It's much more clean. I did my best to try and get the most out of the Kruve. I really did feel like this could be a part of my daily workflow. However, I struggled with it. I have to be honest, I don't think this is going to be a part of my daily workflow. I just cannot see a place for this. The time consumption, the waste, like there's just so much coffee waste. You know, with the filter and then using the fines to make your espresso, you're getting some good coffees there, but you really have to focus on making your filter first and then wanting an espresso afterwards. So that's a big ask. I want to love this. It's such a beautiful design. I really want to love this. Not only did I try the Yogurchef coffee, I went and got some filter coffee, and I tried another type of coffee through it just to see if, you know, what would be the best. If there's enough interest, I might do another video following up using my Decent and doing the filter pour overs through the Decent espresso machine and some extractions through that, and grabbing the graphical data from that and sharing it with you guys. But that's only if I get enough interest from this video. I'm not going to go on and do more testing and experiments, because I think I come at coffee quite differently to a lot of other YouTubers out there who are really into the technical side and the science behind coffee. I came up through the ranks of the coffee world enjoying coffee. So for me, coffee is still a balance of science and art. Yes, this might give you the best TDS, the best total dissolved solids, or the best extraction yield, but does it taste better? Well, in my opinion, it didn't taste that much better for the amount of work that I had to go through to get that result. So unless I had a championship medal on the line and I needed it to be that 1% better than every other coffee I've made, then this would definitely be a part of that. However, just in general, the time consumption is not worth it for me. I'd rather settle for a slightly less than perfect coffee that's quick and enjoyable in the entire process, and this for me just didn't fit in that flow. I'd love to hear your opinions. If you've watched this video and thought, well, you're not doing this right, or you could do this better, or maybe you have a Kruve and you think it really is valuable in your daily workflow, then please comment, like the video, subscribe, tell me what it is that you think that I might be doing differently, or a reason for Kruve to be a part of the workflow. I will consider it. I absolutely want to hear your thoughts and opinions. But for me, right now, I'm sadly putting the Kruve to rest. So that's it from me, Ride, your Chief Espresso Officer, and as always, enjoy your brew.